3, 2, 1, and we're live.
This is episode 4 or 3?
This is episode 4. Hi guys, welcome back. This is going to be a bit of a different one today because we're recording in the morning. Our schedules have got a little hectic this week, but we made time so that the loyal fans wouldn't miss out on a week's worth of exciting conversation with us.
We just couldn't let you down, guys. That's why we decided to cram it in this morning. But yeah, we've been pretty busy recently. I don't know about you, but I've been chock-a-block. So today, what time is it now? 9:30?
Almost 10.
Almost 10. Got my shopping, my weekly shop, been spinning, cooked a lovely breakfast. It's good when you start the day right.
Do you remember we were in the sauna a few days ago, or last week, and the guy was telling us about the yoga class over in Band on the Wall?
I thought you were on about the guy who was just giving me life advice.
Oh, the black guy.
Yeah.
We'll go into that in a minute.
Okay.
But do you remember there's another guy who was telling you about the yoga classes?
No.
You don't remember this?
Tell me more.
Do you know where Band on the Wall is?
Oh, yeah. So there's like these kind of intermediate yoga classes for people who are not kind of starting and beginning yoga, right?
I went this morning.
Oh, okay, cool.
And so it's an event space, but they mostly do gigs, music shows and things.
Band on the Wall, that's right next to us, yeah.
That's it. It's like 1 minute round the point. And but they have this really tranquil upstairs event space where you got mats laid out, and this lady was running the class, and it's a really calm way to start the day. I enjoyed it.
Was it better than like professional yoga?
No, it was worth a fiber.
I think so. It was okay. I think the best experience that I've had doing yoga was in that place that you took me. So it was a dimly lit room. You know, they guided
soft lighting,
everything. I was sweating my tips off though. It was so hard.
It's weird to be sweating when you're so zen.
No, I was zen, but not zen. I felt zen afterwards, actually. I don't know if you got the same, but
yeah, starting your day with that, it's you just feel like you're set up right.
Sure.
You can't be thrown off course today. I think it's just gonna float off you.
Man, you make me want to do yoga again. I've been slacking on the mindfulness recently. That's one thing that I want to improve on. I think we both got quite interesting wellness journeys because we've both not been very well at times. It's fair to say.
Like, it's actually, yeah, because we've been from the opposite extreme.
Exactly.
Right? We both have this tendency of doing things to their limit, and we've gone from limit of overindulgence and basically abusing our body and taking it to absolute town. And now on the other end of really treating it rigorously well, eating well, exercising, all this stuff. Yeah. It's funny now that I've got experience of both ends of those spectrums, I can appreciate how much better I feel now.
It's bizarre, like how you can justify doing all these things that damage your health and damage your mental health in the moment, because you're in this loop of just saying, oh, it's okay, you know, and then you kind of want to change it, but you're in a position where you really don't want to make those commitments to change it because you feel like you're missing out, or this is just a fun thing to do. Well, in fact, you will be much happier if you remove those things from your life, those temptations. And we go back to the point of balance here. One interesting thing we've been speaking about is that there is no balance, is there? In anything in today's society, food, diet, like exercise, it's very hard to just go to the gym twice a week. For me anyway, yeah, it needs to be part of my routine, and I need to get better and better. It's hard to have one jammy dodger because they're amazing.
I've been thinking the paranoid person and like paranoid side of me thinks that people who consume fast food, they binge watch social media or Netflix or whatever, it starts to kind of numb your mind a little bit, I think, and you start to almost pull back from thinking actively about things. You become almost like a zombie, and it messes up with your decision making. So it's like, if I was paranoid about it, I'd think this is some kind of scheme by the ultra wealthy to keep people confined.
I've heard this before. One of my mates is big on conspiracy.
It's like, I mean, sure, it's probably a little bit outlandish, but it makes sense. Like, you give people shitty food and cheap entertainment and easy stimulus, and you know what happens, right? You just you become so much more accepting of even really poor quality things.
I think it's just people capitalizing on instant gratification, and just we can create these devices and these systems that just give you instant comfort.
I don't think
like making
there's no cabal that gets together and
there might be, you know, like, have you heard Jim Carrey and that, and famous celebrities start speaking about these secret organizations that exist?
I haven't.
It's weird, like a few celebrities like Kanye. I mean, you've got to take what he says with a pinch of salt. What? Not Kanye. Kanye said it, I'm told. That man would have made the best president ever. First US black. Oh, well, look, he's not the first.
Anyway, Matt's understanding of American history is showing itself today. But if there was an opportunity to get into one of these ultra elite secretive organizations, would you be down?
Oh, yeah. Imagine how interesting that would be.
That would be, because I bet they do some fucked up shit.
I was listening to this. So this guy does podcasts called The Next Chapter, and he asked these people that have sold you like UK best-selling books about what their next chapter would be about. So they ask about the book, and then if you were to write another chapter, what would you advise there?
Of that book.
Yeah. So we've got one about like this psychologist who became a professional poker player. Mm-hmm. So this behavioural psychologist.
That's
was winning like £250,000. She got a mentor. One was a professional poker player. Then the other one, I can't remember who he was, but basically she wrote a book about poker. But I'm going off topic here. What was the point I was speaking about before?
I was asking you if you wanted to be part of a secret organization that manipulated the masses.
Yeah, sure. So there was this other one about kind of manipulating people and making real change. And he says you can't go to pretend to be part of us. You can't join a company and on your second day just say like, oh, this is how it should be run. Like, your ideas suck. Like, this is how it should be run. Through trial and error, being part of that organization, you'll realize that you should have had some hindsight when you have these great ideas, which you think are amazing. 2 days in, you'll encounter problems as you kind of spend a bit longer at the company and figure out why those might not work. And basically the way to infiltrate different kind of societies is to give it time, kind of act as you're one of them, so you're more respected when you are outspoken and you have these ideas. Because firstly, you're gaining experience as to why they might not work. But secondly, you'll kind of have a bit more respect and you'll kind of fit in with the crowd a little bit. So if you were to join this Illuminati kind of group, you'd give it you wouldn't give it a couple of days, you'd give it a couple of years, like, kind of engrave yourself, wriggle it.
Before you start making some crazy ideas, like, what would you suggest?
That's a big one.
The thing you were saying about you have to integrate yourself a little bit before you start to rock the boat. It sounds so obvious when you think about it. Like, people are more inclined to take advice or feedback or hear the opinions of someone that they think is one of them, as opposed to some random outsider that's coming in and saying, do this, do that, and who you think has no real idea of what's going on. And so I think of this in the context of how do I become more chameleon-like, where you can go into different environments or groups of people, demographics, and you're able to kind of mesh in really easily. You're able to pick up on social cues, the lingo that they use, the body language, and basically go into different environments. And it takes, I think, like different psychological flexibility to be able to go like, I can fit in this group, I can fit in this group. Whereas I see a lot of people where they're very rigid in the kinds of environments that they feel comfortable in, right? They're a certain type of person who has a certain characteristic. Let's say they're maybe very introverted, they're into computer games or whatever, the textbook nerd, right? And they can't really go outside of that sphere. If you put them outside of it, they'll be uncomfortable. But this is one thing that I try and focus on by deliberately putting myself in different circumstances. So yoga is the obvious one, but then I'll do Pilates. Sometimes I'll go to like art classes as well, just because it's such an unfamiliar environment. And I like the idea of getting into these places and thinking, all right, now I got to figure out how to adapt, read the people, and kind of adjust my thinking and style of interaction.
You're more inclined to learn something new from different groups of people that you associate yourselves with as well. If you spend all your time with a group of jocks, right, and you play in sport all the time, you might learn how to make...
And you becomes one-dimensional.
Exactly.
So you think, like, when you see some of the textbook lads around town, and you'll think, your entire personality is so stereotypical. I know exactly the opinions, ideas, beliefs you have, because it's like you've copied them from your social circle to the T.
Yeah, adds depth of character if you're able to mingle with different groups, for sure. So you'll learn things from different people, and the more it's again getting out of your comfort zone in a sense, because by placing yourself with people that you wouldn't originally hang out with, you'll learn some things that group of people might be better at than a different group potentially.
Yeah, it just makes you a little bit more well-rounded, right? Having these different range of experiences.
Yeah,
so that's something I'm trying to focus on.
Maybe we should try something fun. I don't know.
Maybe we should try something fun. But you know I don't need to be tempted.
No, like sober fun.
Okay, I'm suddenly less excited about it.
On the last episode, we've been seriously contemplating having a few glasses of whiskey and just letting the conversation roll, getting a cheese start as well.
At 10 a.m. in the mornings, it could be challenging. My day would be right off.
Be a 12-hour podcast. Just get pissed.
That would be funny, actually. I'd be down for that. But I remember, this is unrelated, we were talking one time about cars, right? And you were saying, if you were going to get a car, you wouldn't get your textbook, maybe like Mercedes or something. You'd get something a little bit more unique that stands out. And so I was thinking about this. I was losing sleep over this. I was like, wait a minute, this something doesn't add up here. Because then I was like, why does this not apply to other things that you do? Like your sense of fashion or how you dress. Why is that not also in a similar vein where you're like, I don't want to wear the same thing that everyone wears or dress the same way. Why don't I have my unique style that showcases my own personality?
It's a bit more like difficult to find clothes that will look good.
Sure, it's a little bit more challenging.
Be out there. Mm-hmm. So you got to dedicate a decent amount of time to your fashion. You got to be interested in it, right? I'm not particularly interested. I look good in everything, so it's just whack whatever. And I woke up in this.
Okay, that's fair enough. I think it could be fun to try on the outfits, though.
Maybe we should push the boat out and go shopping. It's just the time thing, man. I hate using time as an excuse, but recently I've been struggling with it.
To make time for everything you'd like.
Make time for everything. Yeah.
Where do you think the bottleneck is?
I'm up at 6 most days.
Okay.
Are
you cooking every day?
Pretty much.
I don't think that sounds efficient.
Yeah, that's a fair point. But the meals that I make are really just standard. It's like nutrient dense food that I'm not too bothered about taste. Like this morning I had eggs with vegetables.
It looked good though.
Pardon?
It looked good.
Yeah, I like a bit colour on my palate. Like this dude that I was working with, and many other people that I've seen who are just potentially raised eating like this, they will eat a beige diet. Can you imagine how that
like a lot of potatoes, pasta?
What foods are naturally beige? There's really not many, right?
I guess I'm thinking potato pasta.
Yeah.
Maybe rice if it's...
Even pasta's somewhat not natural.
No, I don't eat pasta.
Yeah.
It's pretty processed.
That's what I mean. Like, if you think about the natural foods that are beige...
There's not many. I mean, you got parsnips. You got turnips.
Yeah, so they're not eating pasta. It's like beans, chicken dippers, chicken nuggets, like pastries, like pasties, all just beige food.
Diet's a tough one, man.
That can't be good for you, man.
I know, it's a tough one. I think because so much of modern life is filled with unhealthy processed food that's really easy to access.
Easy as well. That's the thing, like, one thing I've noticed with the whole time thing I've been speaking about, it's so much harder to cook and prepare meals that
if I didn't really just go out the shop
eggs and get a sausage roll. I miss it. I love a sausage roll. It's a lot harder to prep your food and make sure that you're eating healthy.
But you're off the sausage rolls now.
No,
and
I'm the sausage roll.
In prep for your Ironman training, you must be getting pretty lean by now.
You thought so.
You must be like, you're working out multiple hours a day sometimes, right? So the listeners are wondering, what is your body fat percentage, right?
We do a weighing, right? My body fat percentage is, my body's changed shape, but I've not lost that much weight.
What shape are you now?
I'm now a bit more of a triangle instead of a slab, like a brick. My body's definitely changed shape. I've been doing videos just to keep for myself. And,
okay.
You know, it's quite nice to see that progression. Like, I am seeing more definition and things like that. Started doing creatine just for it helps with endurance. It's supposed to help with some brain function as well.
Are you noticing any benefits
from the creatine?
I did notice you were a little quicker, a bit more wittier on the pods lately.
Potentially. Today's just been a good day, I think. Yeah. I'm really trying to work on my language. So I think if we're speaking to each other and we expect other people to listen to us, language is something that I've always struggled with. I hope that I can teach some people that have been in my position how to kind of improve themselves slowly. But if I can't articulate what I'm saying very well, that's going to be really difficult to portray and be engaging. So we bought a book on communication.
Oh, nice.
There's 5 stars of communication that I'm reading. I'm on page 1. I opened it. I was like, I need to go to see. But they're on my to-do list, and it's so important.
Hey, you've taken the first step, right? That's the big one.
The hardest part is putting your kit on. I like that saying. That's really nice. I spoke to you about that.
You did. I like that one.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the weather's getting nice here. The sun's out a lot more. Have you got plans for the summer?
Not particularly.
I don't really do plans for summer.
So I'm going to Ireland for my birthday, and then I've obviously got the Ironman. Post Ironman, I'm pretty free.
Are you planning some kind of celebration?
What, for afterwards?
After the Ironman?
Yeah. Double Ironman. I don't want to go. So after this one, so I'm doing the half, right? Yeah. After that, I want to do the full one.
Okay.
I'm going to straight. The full one's insane. Like, people take away, because you see all these videos of people doing like extreme challenges, like running back-to-back marathons in the desert. People take away from the fact of how difficult an Ironman is. Like, a half Ironman is tough, and I'm going to be proud when I complete it. Full Ironman is a different kettle of fish. If you ask anyone that's run a marathon how they felt after running a marathon, they will tell you that they felt like death 9 times.
So you're already committing to the full Ironman, even though you haven't finished the half?
It would be stupid for me not to do. I know that I'm going to do this half Ironman.
Sure.
Unless I get like my heart seizes and I die. Like Joey LeBron or the swim. I'm going to do it. There's no part of me that questions me.
But then when you finish, how do you know you're going to want to do it? Maybe you're going to be like, you know what? I've ticked this off. That was good. And now I want a different challenge.
The way my life has improved since I've started the training for the half Ironman just means that, shows me that I need something to work towards my fitness in order to keep that. There's been so many days where I've really not wanted to train at all, but because I have this set, and I feel like I have to.
It's like an anchor that keeps you like in line.
Exactly. And without that, I train, but I don't train as hard as I know that I can. And the harder you train, it's the positive snowball. You feel like you have to eat better. You start stretching, you do mobility training, you do better at work because you've done some exercise and you have the endorphins. Everything just starts building and building and building. It just makes you a better person.
Last, I think it was Sunday, you and I did this little bit of a mobility stretching session. And I'm thinking, as you're going through this training, you're probably learning a bit more about your body as well. Like how it works, how far you can push it, and then being a bit more aware of the little nags and kind of kinks that come up along the way. It's a good way to understand your physicality a bit better.
100%. I thought I was pretty indestructible. That's not the case. I'm getting the...
What?
Yeah. So I got some knee pains, the first thing that I noticed that stopped me from playing football. After a bit of stretching and mobility, which I have been doing when I've been doing the spinning and stuff like that, it's borderline gone now, which is insane to me. Like those little things that you can be doing. It's like... So Jordan Peterson says, one of his rules for life, he has 12 rules for life or 11 rules for life. And one of the rules is treat yourself as someone you love or as a loved one. And people don't do it. Like my knee was killing me. If that was my friend or my mum, I would make sure, or my dog even, to make sure that they got like the proper care and went to a vet. Not my mum, but dog.
Mum, I've booked you in to see the vet. I don't care what you say when going right now.
But I would make sure that they're looked after and they get better. But for yourself, you don't seem to do that. Even someone that's focused on wellness, you kind of think like, I'll be all right.
I've made that shift lately physically, right? So I'm a bit more responsive to it now if something does come up and I start to feel, but that's only because I've paid the lesson of not listening to my body and then suffering the consequences of long-term injury and damage. So now I'm usually on it as soon as something comes up. But I think the other side of mentally, I'm still not there yet. Where if mentally I'm not 100% of feeling it sometime, my approach is never, it's okay, take your time, we'll go through this. It's more like, Ibrahim, get your shit together. You fucking lazy ass. This needs to be done. Stop being a bitch.
Do you think that you're too self-critical at times? Or do you see that as a strength?
It's a double-edged sword, right? Because sure, it doesn't sound healthy sometimes, but I feel like this is the thing that also drives me and lets me do exceptional things because I have such unrelenting standards for myself. I think it's really hard to balance the both.
They don't come from nowhere, do they? The standards that you currently have for yourself, they didn't change overnight. That's a building process. You don't get You don't one day decide you're going to eat everything perfectly. You're going to train 6 days a week.
No, that's what you
want to do, but it takes time. You might try it 3 or 4 times and then fail and hit rock bottom again. And then you've got to build yourself back up. But it is a process, isn't it?
I think that's a great point, because part of it is learning more about yourself as you do this thing, right? As you try and do something difficult, like for example, you're doing this Ironman, and you're probably going to have to do things that you didn't anticipate outside of the training. Things like the mobility and stretching work to keep your body on track. Things like tweaking your diet route to make sure you're hitting weight goals. So all these things you kind of learn about yourself in the process of going towards some challenging goal. And I think as you do this, you become more aware of your potential. But that's what's happened to me anyway. I'll think I've got this goal, and whilst I'm going there, I'm like, wait a minute, I've actually got a little bit more here. I think I can do even better. And it's an iterative process where I'm like, I think I can keep pushing. As long as I choose not to settle or accept something that's less than what I'm capable of, I can keep going. And now that I have this awareness of what that potential is, anything below that feels like a compromise.
Yeah. And you get more consistent as well with it. Yeah, for sure. What else is on the menu?
So I've been really dialed in with work now. And I'm noticing that if I can keep this momentum up, it works great. As soon as I let myself slip, that momentum takes me a long time to build up.
What defines a slip for you?
Having a really loose weekend, going balls to the wall.
You've done that more recently, because in our friendship, we didn't drink together for the first year. People might be at home saying, oh, that's really boring.
Applaud, please. I'll edit it in.
We didn't drink for the first year, and I was drinking quite a lot, and you weren't so much. But whenever we were together, you didn't drink, and we built a really strong friendship now. It's 100% one of the strongest friendships I've had. Like it's going really well, and
it's productive. We're doing some good work here.
Yeah, 100%, and
which is not something I can say for other relationships I've got with people. They're usually flippant. They're usually just casual and maybe just a bit of fun, right? So maybe it's like some casual social engagement. But here I'm feeling like we're in line with our mission, our kind of way of thinking. I always feel a little bit more energized and kind of motivated after our conversations.
Yeah, every time. That was one thing I noticed pretty early on. It's like any time we came away from seeing each other, we'd be like, yeah, I want to do this. I want to do that. Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? We'd challenge each other. We'd look at each other, try and give each other honest advice on how to grow, how to get better, which is something that I've not had in a friendship before to this extent.
It's weird. You'd think that because we've identified this, we would do it more deliberately, like more often. Don't you think? Because at the moment, we'll maybe see each other once, twice a week or something.
Yeah.
But how would our lives be different if we were maybe like sharing an apartment, if we were flatmates?
Yeah.
And we saw each other every day.
That'd be awesome.
Because I bet we'd hold each other to much higher standards.
Also, like, we wouldn't be squabbling over taking the bins out and things like that, because we're both naxies with it. We want everything to be pristine. I think it's so important. We've spoken about this very recently, about keeping your workspace tidy.
Just, your general environment. And I think it's a reflection of how your mind works as well.
Yeah.
If somebody's a little bit absent-minded or disorganized with everything, then you're like, I bet that's how their brain works as well. But they're not very structured in how they think, or their mind is all over the place.
It makes it more difficult to think in a structured way for me, or even begin working and feel like, once everything's clean and tidy and I sit down, work doesn't feel like a task. It feels like a mission. Mm-hmm. Like they're kind of two in the same, two peas of the same pod. But yeah, it's like when you've set everything out and your workspace is spotless, you've done all your washing, you've eaten a great meal, and you just sat there and you're like, I have nothing else to do. My mind is completely decluttered now. I only have one thing to focus on because I've smashed everything else out of the park today. So you can give your full focus to one task at a time. Whereas if I've got clothes on my floor, or, even there's crumbs on the side, or the kitchen is a tip, and I've not hooved.
Because your mind's picking up on it. It knows it's there. Yeah. And you're like, I should probably do that.
It's decluttering, isn't it? It's decluttering your mind a little bit when you just keep everything pristine and really clean. I'm like, with Gromit goes like that, Wallace.
No, I haven't seen this.
Have you seen Wallace and Gromit?
Yeah, but I don't know this gang sign that you do.
Those Wallace gang sign, we need to get AI to do that. That'd be a moment.
But living with people is a challenge like in and of itself, especially if they're like strangers, because you have to learn different styles of communication to kind of accommodate their temperaments. And so this is something I've had good practice with over the years, in that people have very different styles of existing in a space, and usually it's going to clash with your own. For me anyway, I have very high standards of cleanliness and keeping things tidy, which most people don't have. So I'm always the one that has to basically make the difference in the other person's like standards.
I don't mind it to an extent, but if people start taking the mick with it, I'm just like, man, then a conversation needs to be had. Like, I don't mind wiping the surfaces and doing the hoovering and things like that, because that's something that bothers me that might not bother other people. So I'll keep on top of that. But if I ask you to take out the bin, naming no names, and then you take out squad bin and not the other bin, then that's going to piss me off. So I've started just tying up the bins and just leaving them by the bin. So
okay,
my family can do it now.
Well, you're reading this new book on communication. Do you think it's going to have some answers in there about how to have difficult domestic conversations?
I'll start trying these.
And then you could feed it back into the pot to see how it's going.
I do have the conversations, to be fair. Like, I don't shy away from a difficult conversation. I think that's like, whether you're in a relationship or whether you're speaking to a friend, whether you're speaking to a roommate, generally speaking, after you've had that difficult conversation, you're going to feel a lot better. And it might not be in a day, it might be not be in 2 days, but in a week, when your flatmates start taking the bins out, or in your relationship, if you're communicating better and there's been some insecurities that you or her have, then those have been tackled now. And you let them fester if you don't have difficult conversations are so important.
I think of it as, if there's ever an awkward or uncomfortable energy, I can't have that. It needs to be addressed, whatever it is. I think like bottling it up, you just like sit on it and it starts to wear at you in the background. And so one of my standards is I don't let awkward, uncomfortable situations just fester. Whatever happens, it needs to be brought up and dealt with immediately. And it keeps things super light, because then no one has a chance to start building up resentment after a while.
Yeah, it's the worst thing ever. It's the way that friendships will be ruined, relationships, family and friends will be ruined if you let things fester and you don't tackle them. And I think, generally speaking, boys are better for this than girls are.
Oh, just speaking up.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
They get it out of their system. So this girl I'm seeing now, one of her friends in her friendship group, there was a group of 6 girls, and one of them, she overheard speaking in the kitchen, just saying she absolutely resented one of these people in her friendship group. She lives with her, so these 2 girls live together. One of the girls was listening to her friend in this friendship group, just saying like, I absolutely hate her, I don't want her to be in this friendship group. And this had been for like 5 or 6 months, because this other girl confronted her. So like, what's that about? And she's like, yeah, none of us really like you. How's that been for? Like, for a long time, you're just rude. And in a boys' friendship group, if somebody had done something to piss them off to that extent, I'd be like, shut the fuck up, what you on about? Like, and then you'd have it out. You'd be uncomfortable for maybe a day tops, usually about 30 seconds. You just like kind of huff and puff, and then they're just out there, it's over. You don't let them fester. And I think boys, I've seen it in girls' friendship groups where they'll kind of hide it a little bit more. They're less confrontational in nature, potentially.
But are you having these kinds of difficult conversations with your guy friends?
If there's something that like pisses me off, then yeah, absolutely.
Can you give us an example of something that pissed you off?
Yeah, so I was having a difficult conversation with a group of my friends. So I was talking about like crime rates based off race, essentially. And there were objective facts about who committed crime and where they were coming from. If you're interested, look it up. It is quite interesting. And I was discussing this in a group of friends and got a lot of backlash for it.
Now, do you think the backlash was because of your delivery, or maybe it wasn't the right environment, or they just more receptive to your ideas?
They were just not receptive. They didn't want to hear what I was saying at all, because as soon as race is involved in any conversation, especially in today's woke society, people just get their guard up, especially like white people. They're like, oh my God, you can't say that. And I don't feel entitled to say anything because of this color of my skin. Yeah. I just feel like I don't really see color. Like if I see an objective fact that 66% of knife crime is committed by black people, even though I'm like, why is that? And I look into those issues, and I brought it up, and they were like, what are your controversial
Don't you think? I'm actually going to flip the script on this and say it's actually racist to suggest that these facts are not right or true. If somebody says like, all right, 60% of knife crimes are black people, and you're like, no, that's not possible because black people can't commit crime. Yeah. It's simply not allowed. And you're like, I'm like, that's racist.
They don't say that. As soon as they hear it, they're just like, well, I can't say that. I'm like, why? I'm saying in fact, like, and that, like, two of them just fell out. Don't speak to them anymore. Right? They're not my friends.
It's an interesting one because I haven't brought this up with any of the people I know, but
I brought it up to one of my black friends. That was fun.
But I'm curious, like, I want to test this and see what happens because I'm not very easily offended, and I'm really curious to know what people's stances are or why they think this is unacceptable to say.
Should we just go out for a few drinks?
Hey, excuse me, do that, like on the street interview style.
But the point was that I lost like a couple of friends just by saying that, and I don't know if you know me well enough to know, like I work
very racist.
I welcome everyone. I've got friends that are black, white, brown,
yellow, but
shed yellow. I love the yellows. They're my favourite. I love the yellows. Anyway, I've got friends of all different races. I don't see it. I judge you by your character.
But I'm going to have to hold you up on that one and say you can still be a racist and have friends of different races.
So what does racism mean?
I think it's to have like a stereotypical prejudice against a person because of the color of their
skin. So I don't have that. Like, I will judge everybody equally having had a conversation with them. Or
let's say you're walking back home late at night, and let's say you're walking in the middle of the road and there's a car coming, so you have to get off the road and onto the pavement. And on either side of the pavement, on one side is a group of white guys, and on the other is a group of black guys, sorry.
Just like what?
It's like group.
How are they dressed?
Typical streetwear, right? They're both.
I wouldn't care.
You wouldn't care.
Like, either way.
But now I'm going to bring you back to the stat that you opened with.
Yeah?
Right.
In Manchester. This is in London.
Okay. So you think it doesn't apply here, yeah?
I don't know.
I guess I didn't know the statistics. Yeah.
So I would be racist if I just, yeah, that's my point. Like, I don't really go off statistics with it, you know? Like, I can't say like more. I think there's a big knife crime problem in Manchester, and I don't know who that's committed mostly by. In Canterbury,
I'm going to Google this while you keep going.
Yeah. In Canterbury, there was big groups of Turkish and Albanians that were kind of leading the drug circle, which I was somewhat involved in.
Well, that's a side story for another.
Man, I went to this like pizza shop, and they just brought out bricks of cocaine, and I was just like, "What the fuck?" Me and this guy from Birmingham went there, and we were just like, we'd got in with. Basically, there was like this. I can't really name any locations, but yeah, it was kind of mad. Went in there, they were like, "What do you want?" And we were just like, "Yeah, well, I will have some." And then they just brought out bricks of it. It was insane. And me and this one guy didn't speak any Kurdish, and they were all just speaking Kurdish for the whole evening. We were just wired. It was pretty insane. Anyway, what's to start saying?
We don't have any for Manchester specific.
Okay. What about across the UK? So I think it's the black population is about 6% of the whole of the UK, because I checked this.
So 6% of the British population is black.
I think so.
And 60% of the knife crime is committed by blacks.
In London. But if you think about all the other minorities put together, they commit less knife crime than black people. And I've explored why that is. I think a lot of it's negative influence by kind of music and culture. There's a lot more single parents households that are black as well.
I've been thinking about this thing of music a bit more lately.
Yeah.
And in the past, I was like big into hip hop rap, but I'm starting to think maybe that does have a deleterious effect on your thinking. If what you're listening to is really explicit, violent, drug and alcohol focused lyrics all the time.
Yeah.
Surely that has some influence on
not massively
what you think and do, and like generally how your brain is wired.
Yeah, massively.
So I've started to be a little bit more conscious of that and think if I'm feeding my brain all these kind of profane lyrics all the time, maybe that's going to have an impact on like how my mind works.
I think you're less influenced as adults. Do you know what I mean? If your kids are listening to this kind of music, then you're more likely to be influenced by it. Firstly, because it's a positive role model. They'll see people with loads of money, with women, really attractive women, singing and rapping about killing people and doing drugs. They're like, damn.
That was great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Whereas if they were all bums, then they wouldn't want to do that, you know. And most of them are. They do drugs and commit crime. It's not. They show like a tiny little section of one 0.0001% of rappers that have made it talking about these things and the luck that he's had and experiencing and gaining the reputation that he's got, but it's not representative of the...
That's true. This reminds me of when we were opening the pod, about the conversation you were having with the gentleman in the sauna about the advice he was giving you on that situation you were in. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I was in a sticky situation. I won't go too much into that. It wasn't anything to do with race.
We won't mention the drug cartel you were involved with.
No, I think you've got to be exceptionally careful about who you take advice for.
So let's say we're both, as a mental exercise, aspiring for a life that 99% of people have not got. And the domains we're looking at are things like your career, how well off you're doing, how much money you're making, your health, physical health, what kind of condition you're in, and your relationships, right? The strength and depth of the connections you have with the people around you. So across those three domains, the place that you and I are both trying to get to is probably better than 99% of the population. Agreed, right? In which case, 99% of people's advice becomes invalid.
Which is why I've been focusing on reading recently. I really think that if you've got these people that know a lot, like objectively know a lot more in their areas that I do, and I have something to learn from them, I don't need to worry about the strangers telling me advice on the street.
Yeah.
You've got this collection of knowledge.
It's such a hack. Like, you've got this person who's devoted his entire life to kind of a master at this one thing, and they've written down all their knowledge, their failures, successes, and lessons into this book, which you can read for the price of a couple of cups of coffee. It's so crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing where I know I need to improve, because not only is it going to make podcasts way more interesting if you're quite good at reading, but I've never read that much. I've always struggled with reading a lot more than I have with maths, and I've not really enjoyed it at all. But whether I enjoy it or not, I enjoy self-development, and I enjoy having a growth mindset and learning new things about myself and the world that I'm in. So I want to make that a real focus moving forwards, but the time is tricky. I've just got to find a way around that. Maybe audiobooks when I'm running is something I've thought about.
That's a good chat. And it becomes really addictive once you read something and then you apply it in your life and you're like, wow, it's like somebody told me this hack that wasn't available to me. Now my life is better. It's such a stupidly simple thing where you're like, I can get a bit of knowledge from a piece of paper and my life becomes better.
It's crazy. There have been some things that I've learned just from reading a few books that have, changed the way I've seen things.
Can you give us an example?
Yeah, so one of them was about disciplining children.
Oh, man.
Funnily enough.
Cut that back to bring back the belt.
No, it was JP, my boy JP again, Jordan Peterson. I was talking about when he was babysitting this.
Is this his 12 Rules for Life book?
Yeah. It's the same one. As I say, I've not read many books, but some of the lessons in there really stuck with me. He was talking about disciplining children. And there was this toddler that the parents that he was babysitting for just said he's an absolute nightmare. If he gets too much, just put the Muppets on and he might be quiet for a little bit. And Jordan Peterson was like, that's ridiculous. Like, this kid can't be that much of a nightmare. So he kicked, screamed, crying, everything. So put him in the cot and didn't let the child watch TV, and then he just started screaming, kicking and screaming. So John picked him up, put him on there, just prodded him. Not an uncomfortable prod. So not like a hard backhand him or anything like that. But
no belt.
No belt, yeah. Uncomfortable prod. And the baby was obviously taking a little bit. They got up, they started doing it again. And
like, the fuck is this?
Because he's been like, oh, baby, don't cry. All the parents have been like that. And then the baby's a little bit shocked, got up, did the same again. So he does it again, pins him down, restrains it, gives it an uncomfortable prod.
Yeah.
He stops feet. And he did the same with his own child when he was feeding it food. So he'd give it vegetables and it'd go like that. And prod, open him out.
Wait a minute. Yeah. What is this weird hack to parenting I've not heard before? We just prod someone and...
No, like uncomfortably,
Do you think it works with adults? No, I gotta test this. I'm gonna
just try it on your planet.
Hey, I can see why it works, because it's like, it's so unexpected and it's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Yeah, it catches you off guard. But I guess because children are susceptible to it, it works, right?
Yeah, it's not causing any harm. But it's not even been tried before, like, by the people that's mollycoddling their children.
The example of the child who's like kicking and screaming, crying is a good one, because obviously we're both not parents, but I'm trying to picture what that would be like, right? Let's say you got this kid and it's a fucking nightmare, right? It's crying, screaming, whatever. And what do most parents do in that situation? Yeah. They're like, I want this to stop. I will do whatever it takes, even if it compromises the child's discipline. I'll give it the iPad, I'll give it some food or snacks or whatever.
That's it.
Whereas, in my opinion, the best approach is let it cry it out. It's like, you are not getting a response from me with this tantrum.
That's what I'd be interested to see, like, whether psychologically that's the best thing to do or not. Like, there was, because you don't want to feel like rejected. I don't know if that would have any effects. I don't know. Like, I agree with you in the sense that the best way to solve it isn't like giving them what they want. That's rewarding.
That's right. You're conditioning the child to say, every time you throw a fucking tantrum, I'm going to give you something you want. Yeah. And then they become man-child babies who don't have any sense of...
So many man-child babies, yeah. It's just a world of man-child babies, really, isn't it? Yeah. But there was another thing about this woman that was on BBC. I saw it. It was just a snippet, and she was on BBC Morning. And she says she's never laid hands on her children apart from a couple of times. And one of the times her children was like, I'm going to jump on the road. And this woman was like 60 now. So she was a bit maybe old-fashioned. But she grabbed the child, slapped her on the wrist and said, do not play around like that. She asked what her thought processes were. And it was like, I didn't want my child to be in danger. It didn't come out of a place of aggression. I didn't want her to do that again. And the child was shocked. Guess what? She didn't go, shut up, and she was behaved for the rest of the journey. Did that have any long-lasting effect on the child's mental well-being?
Got PTSD every time anyone holds her.
Prob every time she sees a car. Probably not. But then this woke guy was just like, you should never touch a child. It's like, yeah, you should just reason with her, have a conversation with her.
Because kids are just not reasonable, right? Yeah, like kids are like, yeah, I fully understand the point you're making. Good point.
It's just scared down the street. Anyway, that's got to be a wrap for today. I'm going to go to work, try and make some sales. Whoop, whoop.
All right, guys. Thanks for this. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.